When the Harris campaign launched, they got great traction by calling Trump and Vance weird. That was good. Weird was working. People are tired of weird, and ever since Donald Trump decided to dominate our lives, the Democrats' argument has been, we'll restore normal. Well, if what you're selling is let's be normal again, here's an idea. Be normal. Looting was rebranded as justice shopping. We stopped arresting shoplifters. Anti-racist baby was a bestseller. Corporations took DEI to ludicrous lengths. We opened our hearts to all who wanted to come here, and then also our borders. Portland decriminalized all drugs, and Seattle set up a no-cop zone until they had to reverse course on both. Standardized testing was dropped until schools saw how dumb that...
The Democrats keep losing ground to Donald Trump, and Maher's exposing exactly why. In an episode of the hit HBO show, Real Time with Bill Maher, Maher ripped open a political can of worms, exposing internal fractures within the party. He broke down why KLA Harris, despite her nonstop effort, isn't drawing crowds and why DNC leadership desperately needs a total overhaul. As always, hit the subscribe button if you haven't, and let's get down to business.
Harris to do what many have been calling for her to do since she became the candidate, have a sister soldier moment. And if you weren't around in 1992, let me tell you what a sister soldier moment means. It's when you earn cred with the middle-of-the-road voters by standing up to an extremist in your own coalition. For Bill Clinton in 1992, that was a notorious rapper. No, not him. No, Sister Souljah, whose music is not much remembered, but her words are. After the LA riots in 92, she said, if there are any good white people, I haven't met them. Now, in fairness, she had just come out of Williams-Sonoma.
Maher revealed that one major reason Kamala Harris isn't gaining real traction within the Democratic Party is her refusal to distance herself from the woke activist wing. According to Ma, moderate voters might be willing to overlook her frequently unclear messaging, awkward delivery, and even the often criticized public presentation. What they won't forgive, however, is her silence. Ma argues that leadership requires drawing clear lines, and Kamala has consistently avoided doing that. While she has never openly embraced the most extreme woke ideologies, she has also never challenged them. Instead, she chooses political safety over conviction, hoping not to upset the loudest activists in the room. That hesitation, Maher warns, makes her look weak rather than strategic. In a political climate where voters crave clarity and confidence, fear of backlash is not a winning message. Tomorrow, Kamala's problem isn't intelligence or experience. It's the unwillingness to stand up and say no when it matters most.
It was an easy win. Clinton won over independent whites, and it didn't hurt him with black voters who went for him overwhelmingly and even used to refer to him as the first black president, which so went to his head that he later dated a white girl with a...
Ma gives a perfect example of how standing up to a vociferous group and criticizing them outright can actually win you votes, the kind of votes that decide elections. Kamala was always going to collect support from core Democratic loyalists and party sympathizers. But the real challenge was winning over voters in the middle, that is, independents and moderates who aren't locked into tribal politics. That's exactly the slice of the electorate that Donald Trump made the biggest gains with in 2024, narrowing traditional demographic gaps and even improving his appeal among Hispanic, Black, and Asian voters compared with earlier elections. Trump's ability to chip away at the center helped him secure a narrow national victory and a broad electoral college win. By contrast, Maher argues Democrats have ceded the middle ground by refusing to confront the loudest activists, leaving them with base enthusiasm but little crossover appeal.
The left got a little carried away, like most of the merch at this shoe store. Get it, carried away? Once in a while, they need a lick. Okay. Looting was rebranded as justice shopping. We stopped arresting shoplifters. Anti-racist baby was a bestseller. Corporations took DEI to ludicrous lengths. We opened our hearts to all who wanted to come here, and then also our borders. Portland decriminalized all drugs, and Seattle set up a no-cop zone until they had to reverse course on both. Standardized testing was dropped until schools saw how dumb that was.
Here's where Maher goes full throttle, laying out real-world examples of woke decisions and cultural policies that, in his view, push the Democratic Party straight into political opposition. From unpopular crime reforms to language policing and ideological purity tests, Maher Music argues these moves alienated everyday voters who once reliably leaned blue. Critics may point out that KLA Harris didn't personally design or promote many of these policies, and that's fair. But Maher's argument cuts deeper. Leadership isn't only about what you create. It's also about what you challenge. At the very least, Harris could have used her platform to question the excesses, push back publicly, or signal limits. Instead, her silence allowed these ideas to define the party's image. To Maher, that absence of resistance mattered when voters saw chaos, confusion, and cultural overreach. They didn't see dissent from Democratic leaders, and silence in politics often speaks louder than words.
And yet, the head of the teachers union in Chicago still maintains that testing is, quote, junk science rooted in white supremacy. And her union tweeted during COVID, when many Americans felt we could have gotten back to normal sooner, that the push to reopen schools is rooted in sexism, racism, and misogyny. No, it was rooted in reading, writing, and arithmetic. The teaching of which is apparently job none in Chicago because only about 1 in 4 students in the city are proficient in either math or English. And absenteeism is off the...
That's the fundamental problem with implementing woke decisions and policies. In many cases, the issue they aim to solve ends up becoming even worse. Maher argues that good intentions don't guarantee good outcomes, especially when ideology replaces evidence. Take the elimination of standardized testing, which was framed as a way to reduce inequality and prevent discrimination. Instead, it produced the opposite effect. Schools lost a clear metric for identifying struggling students. Accountability weakened and learning gaps quietly widened. Absenteeism increased as academic expectations collapsed and students who needed intervention the most were left invisible. Rather than fixing inequity, the policy masked it. Maher's point is simple. Removing standards doesn't create fairness. It creates confusion. When performance measures disappear, so does urgency. The result is a system that feels compassionate on paper, but fails in practice. According to Maher, this pattern repeats music again and again. Symbolic victories replace real solutions, while the underlying problems grow deeper and harder to fix.
I think Kamala Harris could have a moment if she trotted out her favorite phrase and said, let me be very clear. Our schools need to do better. Our kids need to be in school, and when they're there, they need to have the phones off and the brains on, learning the basic things we used to teach. And the idea that testing is rooted in white supremacy is in itself a racist belief that says black children can't compete with white children on tests, which they surely can.
There are sane, reasonable people on the right, just as there are on the left. And Maher argues that KLA Harris could have tapped into that shared middle ground if she had taken a firm stand against extreme woke policies. Millions of voters aren't driven by ideology. They're driven by common sense. Many Democrats, independents, and even progressives privately view the far left as disconnected from everyday reality, obsessed with language battles and symbolic issues, while real problems go unsolved. Had Kamala spoken out, she wouldn't have been isolated or abandoned. In fact, she may have unlocked a broad coalition of moderates desperate for balance. Maher's point is that leadership creates permission. When prominent figures speak up, others follow. Instead of challenging the excesses, Harris allowed them to define her party's image. In doing so, Democrats lost voters who wanted reassurance, not radicalism. Standing up to extremism isn't betrayal. It's how winning coalitions are built.
Above any matters of politics or what's right or wrong, the one thing I know for sure about America is this. It's run by mean girls. Mean girls in the press and in politics and in life. And when they smell blood in the water, the lust to finish off a vulnerable person will never be denied.
Maher strongly decries the cancel culture that, in his view, has slowly consumed the modern left. He describes it as a movement that never forgives, is perpetually offended, and constantly hunts for new offenders to publicly shame. There is no room for music growth, context, or redemption, only punishment. According to Maher, disagreement itself has become a crime. The moment someone challenges the approved narrative, they're labeled problematic, dragged online, and effectively erased. Debate is replaced with outrage, and curiosity is treated as betrayal. Maher argues that this mindset is not progressive at all. It's authoritarian, enforcing ideological conformity through fear. Even longtime liberals now hesitate to speak freely, worry that one wrong sentence could end their careers. When a political movement cannot tolerate dissent, it stops being inclusive and starts becoming brittle. Tomorrow, cancel culture isn't just alienating voters. It's suffocating the very principles of free expression, an open dialogue that once defined the left.
The Harris campaign launched. They got great traction by calling Trump and Vance weird. That was good. Weird was working. People are tired of weird, and ever since Donald Trump decided to dominate our lives, the Democrats' argument has been, we'll restore normal. Well, if what you're selling is let's be normal again, here's an idea. Be normal. America doesn't need a revolution. It needs fixing.
Maher openly trolled Kamala's campaign for making Donald Trump the centerpiece of its entire strategy. Instead of offering a compelling vision of their own, he argued Democrats spent far too much time reacting to Trump, attacking Trump, and naming Trump as the root of every problem. According to Maher, that approach is political quicksand. Voters already know who Trump is. Reminding them daily doesn't change minds. What does matter is offering stability, competence, and normally, Maher's advice was blunt. Return to the center and be normal again. Stop chasing ideological extremes and start speaking the language of everyday Americans. Extreme leftism, he warned, isn't helping working families, isn't winning swing voters, and isn't inspiring confidence. At the same time, endless name-calling only hardens divisions and exhausts the electorate. Maher's message was clear. Elections aren't won by outrage alone. They're won by credibility, clarity, and showing voters that adulthood has returned to politics.